Being a fan of this sport in this day and age is pretty dizzying. It's not just that we have 40 plus events each year, you also have to consider the fact that each card is marred with impressive performances or controversy that has us spending the following week talking about and dissecting what has just taken place. And that's just when it comes to the pre- and post-fight hoopla from what happens inside the cage. Never mind when it comes to the craziness and shenanigans that takes place outside of the cage. The point is, sensory and information overload is something us MMA fans deal with on a regular basis, whether we realize it or not. And with that, there are a lot of parts of this game that we perhaps take for granted, or at the very least, don't realize how integral to the show they may be just for the very fact that they're always there. Case in point, the voice of the Octagon, Bruce Buffer. I shouldn't say we take him for granted because I do believe that all fans realize how important Buffer is, not just to the promotion, but to the biggest fights in the history of this sport. I cannot imagine a major fight or event without Buffer getting into the driver's seat to kick things off. Without Buffer, these moments aren't nearly as big or monumental. He's also one of the very few that have been around long before the Zuffa era. July 12, 1996 is the first time the voice of the Octagon announced his first UFC event. UFC 10 was the card. It was back in the tournament format days, and it was also the event that marked the first appearance of Mark Coleman in the UFC. Just to give some sort of perspective on the timeline of things. Since then, it's been non-stop. It never ceases to amaze me how many events a year Buffer does. It's very, very rare he'll miss an event. He travels to every corner of this planet on a regular basis and does so while brimming with positivity. He's a true pillar of the sport. He's also one of the figures in this game that you never hear anybody say a single bad word about. Every time I've heard him in an interview or someone talk about the Buff, it's always been nothing but positive. In fact, in a way, I've experienced how good of a man he is myself. If any of you are familiar with my work in the past, or if you took notice at the beginning of this very episode, you know that my intro has Bruce Buffer doing the announcement. And that's very real. It's not fake. Some of you know for a small fee, you can have Bruce Buffer send you a recording of your own name as a fighter announcement for any number of reasons, whether it be for private use, for voicemail, or to play at a wedding or some sort of event. But understandably, it's not to be used for commercial use. If that was the case, everybody would be jumping at the opportunity to have the voice of the Octagon attached to their business or podcast or whatever it may be. In September of last year, when I was first starting my MMA media contribution, I thought about how incredible it would be to have Buffer on my intro. Although it was in September of 2017 that I started, I actually conceived the idea of doing my own MMA podcast in 2015, so to say I was dragging my heels to start would be an understatement. I knew it was a long shot, but when I wrote to see how much it would cost to get what I wanted, I was asked if it would be used for commercial use, to which I responded yes. Although I'm a nobody and I'm only doing this because I'm obsessed with the sport and I'm in desperate need of an outlet for my fandom, and it's not something I'd be making any money off or anything of the like. It's just sort of a dream I had for my intro if I ever were to start anything. With zero hope or expectations, the woman handling it wrote back to me and said that because of how much Bruce respected my entrepreneurship and fandom of the sport, that he would do the recording for me at a regular private price just because he wants to help out. It was at that very moment that I vowed I would not ever let that clip go to waste, and that I was more motivated to get started with my contribution more than ever. Just a couple days after receiving the recording, I started the podcast, and I've been going steady every single week since I started 8 months ago. So thank you for being you, Bruce. You're the man, and I really appreciate you giving me the motivation to jump into this thing. And thank you for making all of those huge moments and even bigger than what they are. And happy birthday to you, as May 21st is your day. So enjoy it, my friend.